Hello and welcome to episode 29. Jackson, we've been doing this for 29 episodes now.
That's 29 weeks at least. We've missed a couple.
We missed a few weeks, but kind of
It's a
cool.
long
It's a
time.
it's a milestone. It's not a round milestone, but it's a milestone. So we're recording this December 19th, 2024. I had to bend over and look at the clock there. Sure that looks weird to all the viewers. And then we're naming this one Sleighbells Ring. It is about that time of year for all those who believe in Santa. I believe in Santa. Do you believe in Santa, Jackson?
You know, Santa's it's a rough topic around my household. We've got kids. Santa's real. He's real.
Santa is real. How about Artie? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Trying
Awesome.
to stay warm.
'Tis the season.
Indeed.
So let's dive right into it. We've got a couple topics we've been talking about kind of idly around the water cooler and around the conference table here at WIO Support. Biggest one, I think, that affects the world right now is TP Link.
Yes.
There's a big to do with them right now. Who's got the story? Who wants to read that?
I do. I've got to find which browser it's in, though. Wrong one. There we go. So,
Which browser, which tab, which window, which screen, which desktop?
TP-Link has been it's come under scrutiny for a lot of reasons. Number one being that it seems like their devices are being sold at or under the manufacturer cost, which is, from my understanding, against the law in the U.S. So the Trade Commission or Commerce Secretary is
You're
looking
telling
into
me
it.
it's against the law to sell something cheaper than what you made it for?
It is. It's considered unfair business practice, and I believe that came about because there were companies that were doing that just to get rid of competition, and then they would raise the price after no competition was there.
That makes sense.
But the other thing that is a big issue with it is they seem to have vulnerabilities in every single device that they put out. And it's not, vulnerabilities that you would find normally in these devices. It's the same type of vulnerability across every iteration. So a buffer overflow or an escalation of control, administration access, just it seems like from this is my opinion. If you go to MITRE.org or one of the other CVE listings and look for D-Link's products, you will see a slew of these vulnerabilities, and they're all the same types of vulnerabilities. So either they've got really bad programmers, or in my opinion, they're building them in. And because D-Link is specifically a Chinese-based organization, it's kind of becoming a security issue for the US, considering that they've got well over 50% of the market share with their devices because they're cheap. People buy them because they're cheap and they work.
Yeah, actually, I choose not to buy them because they are cheap. You buy a $15 router for your house. What do you expect? Like, I don't expect that wireless to work. I don't expect that wired connection of forward packets at a decent rate. If it does, that's just an absolute miracle. But that's good to know. There's protections out there that it's legally not possible to sell something cheaper than you made it for. There's a lot of commentary I could put on that, but let's dive into that one. I mean, if you've got 50% of the market share and there's vulnerabilities, never mind if it's willful negligence or willful intent. to give you a backdoor. 50% of the market having backdoors, that's an issue.
How often are they releasing patches for these? Are they pretty
Um,
quick to respond?
Let me check MITRE really fast. I did not have them open.
Because I would be curious to see, I mean, what kind of a response does that get from them? If they're pretty quick to respond and fix the issues, and they actually do a decent fix, like, that's a different story than if they're very slow to respond, don't release a patch, don't even announce that there is a patch that's urgent. Um, yeah, I'd be interested to know what their interaction with their customer base is.
Hmm. I
The
mean, I've played with TP-Link stuff before, access points and switches, and it seemed like good stuff. But there is something to be said about cloud-only managed devices. You are beholden to that cloud. If you don't have an account, if you don't have access to that server, or worse yet, let's say you're off grid, you're trying to get wireless working in your space, or you're air gapped for security reasons, and you're trying to set up switches, and you can't get to the cloud. Does that mean you can't manage your device?
I'm
Yeah,
checking
let's
these and I'm looking for, patches and I'm not seeing patches or
The ones that I worked with were all built-in patches. So you would say just automatically update my device, but you have to do it through their interface.
but I'm not
I
seeing
think you
any
can
information
download.
on them actually having patches available for them. Usually there's a little tiny section saying mitigation efforts, update to the most recent drivers. So I'm not even seeing that for these. So it looks like they are not patching. Um,
Hmm.
yikes. that's that's all I had to say to that is yikes. Especially, and I don't like that automatic updates thing either. Um, at least not in this case. Usually, automatic updates are pretty okay. You want to get the security updates as soon as they come out. But then we go back to the whole thing. Hey, there's this company overseas selling devices under manufacturer price, which means they're making their money some other way. And by the way, here's automatic updates, so you don't even know. We might push an update that's malicious, right? Um, that's a strong thing to say about a company, but I mean, you never know, right? When do you, or how do you trust that they don't get hacked, or uh, their system doesn't get infiltrated, and then a hacker pushes out a malicious update, and then you've just got 60% of the market share in the U.S. that has a backdoor in it, right? Um, so there's a
found one
lot of
from
things that go into that I'm not a fan of. Um, but yeah, I mean, another thing is if they're selling something under uh, manufacturer price, there's kind of two options there. One is they're getting their money in other ways, meaning they're selling your data, or two, kind of like what Artie was saying earlier, they're trying to push out some other competition, and then they'll jack up your prices.
So I did find one that had been patched, and it was discovered in July. So the ones that I've been finding from like September through December, I'm not seeing any information on available updates for them.
Hmm.
Now, the December ones
Well,
can
and
be
I
forgiven because they're kind of recent, but from September, there's yeah. Um,
yeah, there's
the
a way to approach the security updates. Somebody says, "Hey, you got a vulnerability." There's a responsible way of doing that. So if we found an error or glitch in a router, we'd reach out to the manufacturer. We'd say, "Here's our proof of concept. Here's our case. Here's the vulnerability. We can reproduce it across all these devices." And we give them like 60 days or 90 days. It's kind of like the standard, uh, um, the professional courtesy, the grace period that you give somebody before you publish proof of concept on the web, so that everybody knows what it is.
Mhm.
yeah, that's a usual practice in the
Hmm.
cybersecurity field, they let the company know, and you know there are some companies out there that they refuse to even acknowledge that there's a vulnerability or a flaw, and 9 months later, the people that discovered it just go, they're not responding to us. They have not um, even acknowledged that there's an issue. We're going to release this to everybody else so that they can you know, um, be able to protect themselves from this vulnerability using mitigations that we found work.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the security
It's like
researchers.
polite blackmail. It's like very polite blackmail. Hey, by the way, here's this problem with your stuff. Please fix it.
I wouldn't say blackmail. I say public shaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, fix your patch, or we'll let everybody know it's there.
hmm
So it's kind of a mix of
And at
both,
that
actually.
point,
It's like a public service kind of thing. Like,
yeah, and I don't know Artie or if you, John, are familiar with the legal thing, but I mean, at what point can people start uh suing for uh like some sort of negligence, right?
I hate to say it, but in America, you could sue at any point. No worries. Just if you got the money, you could throw it at lawyers and make it happen. But there comes a point at which, it goes from frivolous lawsuit into actual lawsuit. I don't know what that threshold is, and each one would be its own case.
So
That's true. And that kind of goes into some other things that I saw this week, right? Was both Netflix and Meta were facing data transparency fines or data breach fines. And there was the whole LastPass thing that's still ongoing. And I mean, at least for example, the Meta one, I've got it pulled up right here. It was 264 million that Ireland fined Meta for a data breach in 2018. So that's 6, maybe almost 7 years later that you even see some sort of recompense. And even then, it's not whose data that's getting. The more we talk about this, the more I realize that all of these companies are getting fined by governments, and the people's data who actually got breached, they're never getting recompense for it. You just get screwed.
Yeah, I mean, that $260 million fine. Do I get $1 or $2? 5? Where does that money go?
Yeah. Is it going into
No,
laying
really, I'm
fiber
asking the
down?
question. Where does that money go? Put in the
I
comments
wish I
below if
knew.
you know where it goes.
So
Chat us.
on that note, I on one of my social media feeds, somebody mentioned that they got some money from the Equifax settlement from a few years back when they had their breach, $7.44. So some people do get paid, but yeah, it's it's not really that much if you do get paid.
No,
Still, I mean,
it's
that's like
not what it's worth.
that's half a burger at McDonald's these days.
Just the bun.
Just the bun. Oh, fun fact. Try it sometime if you're feeling like you want to throw away money. You can go to McDonald's, those ordering kiosks, and you can order a hamburger and minus every ingredient. And so you can
Everything.
remove everything
I-
to the point where you get a bag of air for $10.
I know for a while there that there was a software glitch in those kiosks at McDonald's where if you did that to a burger, it would corrupt the bootloader.
Mm.
So the thing would crash and you could not restart it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, and okay, let's defend the engineers on that one. Like, who would go through and delete all the ingredients from their burger and actually
One of them was like, "Hey,
follow through?
do we need to put some error checking in this?" And it's like, "No.
Well, who would check
Who's
that?
going to remove
I mean,
everything from a burger?"
mhm.
It just
Might as well check and make sure the sun's still there. Like, what's the point?
I mean, you have to understand if you're designing something like that, you're going to get trolls, you're going to get people that don't know what they're doing, or you're going to get a kid that's just playing around. And you've got to test all of these different avenues as best you can. Or you give it to people to test, people that you know are going to break it. It's why in programming and gaming, they've got beta testers that literally go in there and just push it to the limits and try to find something to break. And this is a stage that I think has been gradually weeded out of a lot of development because they just put it out to the populace to be the beta testers instead of, paying a few people or even just doing a public open beta or whatever they're working on. And even the open beta is the public testing it for you.
Well, having done user interface design work before, there's just an inherent understanding that I have when I sit down at an interface and I click buttons and I do things. It's why you got to open it up to other people. You got to say, hey, find that 3-year-old that wants to order their own hamburger and have 17 all beef patties added to their, little cheeseburgers.
I'd allow that one. Just allow that. I want to see that.
I want a milkshake with 2 extra beef patties.
Well, at least I got that part locked down. You can only add ingredients that are relevant to the item. So you can't put barbecue sauce in your Coke. You just...
No, they can't do it, but you can.
Oh, we can. We have the power.
It's a secret menu item, don't you know?
Barbecue
secret
Coke.
menu.
They ought to add that in. Who programs those? They should make a little secret menu, and you have to do a little, I don't know, some sort of a combination on the kiosk to get it to show you all those secret items.
Enter the Konami code.
Up, down, left, right.
BA start.
Right.
So I'm going to bring us back to the TP Link thing, if that's okay.
No, I want to talk about Big Macs and Happy Meals.
Well, there's a third thing that's going on with it as I scrolled down it and refreshed my memory on it. The TP Link devices are active in botnets.
Yeah.
So they are compromised and doing their own thing or whatever the people that control the botnet want them to do.
Well, that's kind of the risk, right? I mean, if you've got a firewall, there's a chance that your firewall sitting on the edge will get attacked and overtaken, and you won't know it. The Mirrorless botnet that hit MikroTik a while back was the most powerful botnet at its time. Had the highest bandwidth attack to date when it launched. That what was it, like 1.3 petabytes or petabits?
I don't recall.
Yeah, somebody put an equate to it saying it's as if you got like Star Wars and all the ships aimed their lasers at one single TIE fighter. It would just obliterate it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All the archers on the wall looking down at the oncoming army, and there's just like one body that is just covered with arrows. The archers saying, well, what do you know? We all aimed at the same guy.
What you call overkill.
Oh,
I would turn my army around at that point because, like, these guys are sadists.
I think overkill is underrated, if you ask me.
Oh, what is it? There is no such thing as overkill. There's only open fire and reload.
So the vulnerabilities. Go ahead, Jackson.
I was going to ask, Artie, do you know? So, I mean, there's talk of TP-Link being banned in the US, or what is the government's standpoint on that right now? Are they investigating what's
So
going on?
apparently they have been investigating for a while. Um, but well, the government, I'm not sure if they're the ones that have been investigating, but tech companies have been investigating this for a while. Microsoft made some what would you say? Not veiled accusations, but they brought some concerns up about botnets being used by Chinese threat actors, and various other organizations have brought up concerns with TP-Link. So if things do go against TP-Link in this, if there's enough evidence, then yes, the devices are going to be banned from sale, and possibly even with farther reaching, you cannot connect these devices to the internet order that goes out. And you know, with the way that the internet's set up, we can find out where those devices are just by, you know, sending out pings to the devices. Um, Other people that know networking better than I could, or than I do, could tell you the exact mechanisms for that. But yeah, it's it's considered a national security risk at this point, and yeah,
Well, and let's paint a picture to that. So it's national security. I've worked with a couple clients where they say, you know, who cares if my Ring doorbell gets hacked by, you know, a foreign country? You know, okay, so they can see my doorbell, they can ring my doorbell. Who cares? That's not a big deal. I can kind of understand that perspective, but let's go another direction with it. If I've got one doorbell, I've got one doorbell. But if I get 500,000 doorbells, 500,000 cameras across a state or a couple states or half a country, now I can monitor things. I can see things. We can actually start doing more intelligent analytics on what's going on, traffic patterns, and you know, what's the kind of cars that they drive. What we could start asking questions because we've got a massive data source. So
Just think
if
about
somebody's go ahead.
London's CCTV infrastructure.
Mhm.
I mean, that's they've got. I think it's still the biggest in the world, or the densest, right? I mean,
yeah.
they can track anyone through anywhere, and so that power, where do you want it? In whose hands do you want it, right?
Well,
I'd
and
rather not
let's
have
just
that
hope.
power in anybody's hands personally,
I agree.
because it goes back to the who watches the watchers type of thinking. And you know, I might just be a paranoid person, but I don't trust anybody to have that level of power.
Right, and to put it to John's point, you know, we've seen what they've done with it in London to at least do some good, perceived good, right? They catch criminals. Now imagine having that same power, but then it's China or Russia or whoever else.
Yeah, and it's who is the threat actor? Who's got the controls? Who's saying watch this, watch that? And we don't know. And the worst part is if it's a vulnerability, you can't really control who is going to be the threat actor. First one to the door wins, right? First one to the vulnerability. So now I got the cameras, now I got the motion sensors, now I got the lasers, you know, all that stuff. Just I own all the security that is out there. So you could blind a company, you could blind uh, a utility. I mean, some serious risks here.
Yeah. And according to Wall Street Journal, an article stated that TP-Link has 64.9% of the US market for home and small office routers. Now, If all of those routers went offline at the same time, the internet in this country would suffer. And that would prevent a lot of people from getting online or businesses doing business. It wouldn't be a minor thing. So if it is controlled by a foreign actor, that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I like diversity of product. I like diversity of the technology stack or the security stack that sits behind it. If everybody was the same, then it's just one key to rule them all. As soon as you find one vulnerability, you've got all the devices in your control.
It's a scary prospect.
It is. But, I mean, that's why we do what we do.
Maybe they can't quite move it from the equation just now.
You
What do
got
you
real
say to
quiet
that?
there.
Am I having microphone issues?
You are having microphone issues.
All right, let me see if I can't solution this. Sorry about that.
That's all right. We'll wait for you.
How am I sounding now? Am I coming through?
Yes, you are.
All right, I'll leave it right there then. So my question was, if I am a TP-Link user, what's your recommended course of action? And maybe I'm a TP-Link user and I'm a little bit locked in. What do I do?
Throw it away by another one. And I'm not being jokative about that, but go find a different brand of router and buy that now. Because if the TP-Link is truly state-sponsored, we don't know. We're speculating here. But if it's state-sponsored, then it's worth switching to a different brand. But here's a head scratcher, guys. How many routers are manufactured in China? How many different brands?
Quite a few.
All of them? I don't know.
I know that there are other manufacturing plants throughout Southeast Asia. I don't know of any that are manufactured in the U.S.
I know TSMC is getting their fab set up in Arizona. That's coming along nicely. Saw a thing on CNBC about that. They got a tour. But that really gets to the heart of the matter, is diversification of their technology. If it's spread everywhere, there's a better chance that it's secure, and you're not beholden to a single place.
Yeah,
And
don't put all your eggs in one basket.
And the other thing to stress, like John said earlier, just because it's cheap, you are going to get what you pay for. And it reminds me of the free TVs that some companies are giving out to people. Yeah, you get a TV and it's like a 38-inch flat screen, nice picture, everything, but you're not getting it for free because there's so much adware that's on there. And if you set it up behind, say, a Raspberry Pi to block all of the ads and all the additional things, you're now in breach of contract and they can come and take your TV away. So it's that there's caveats on all of the things. And if it reminds me of the phrase, there's no such thing as a free lunch. If you get it for cheap, there's a reason you're getting it cheap.
Well, it's another phrase that I love. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And then the big companies, why not do both? You pay for the product and you're the product. Anybody else getting ads on Amazon Prime?
Oh my gosh. Don't even get me started down that route. I'll blow a gasket. What's the point of paying for a service if they're just going to show you ads? We've backtracked, everyone. We have backtracked so far. We had satellite TV for the longest time. Streaming services came out. The whole thing was on demand now, whenever you want it, no ads. And now we're going back to actually, there are ads too, and you still have to pay for it.
Just kidding. We're going to charge you $12 a month to send you 9 unskippable ads.
It really reminds
And I
me of when
think
cable
Prime is
TV became a thing, because cable TV, the big thing about it was, oh, you're paying for this, so you don't have to watch advertisements. And then within like 10 years, all the cable channels started having advertisements on them, aside from, pay-per-view ones. But the pay-per-view ones were, astronomical in price, like 2 or 3 times what you'd pay for your monthly bill just to get like HBO or Showtime.
Yeah, and I think I'll say I think Prime is the worst offender in my opinion for this new format because I even saw a commercial. I have Prime, just the base subscription. But sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Even I just saw a commercial for them where they were saying, "Oh, Prime has 100+ subscriptions all in one." I was like, "No." I was like, "You get on Prime, and if you want to watch anything, you have to subscribe to something else like HBO or Max or Paramount." Just because you have quote unquote access to it. Oh, they drive me up a wall, I can tell you.
You get your HBO, but you pay for Prime, so it links it up, and then it's just one interface to watch it. But yeah, you're still paying your bill. So we've gone from a place of having no bill with over the air, lots of commercials, to then we got cable TV, no commercials. We pay a lot of money for that. Then it got to commercials, and then we got satellite, and then we had hundreds of channels. Streaming comes in. Okay, great. Now we can watch streaming content. Now there's commercials in that. But when streaming hit, it ripped away all the customers from cable and from satellite because it was cheaper. Well, now
I think
all the companies
they all
have.
got hired on to the streaming services.
I'll make a prediction. So all the streaming sites are like 10, 12, $15, whatever they are.
I think
I'll make
Netflix
a
is almost
prediction,
$20 now.
right? And I'll bet you that there's going to be some sort of conglomeration, kind of like United Artists did back when the theaters were all separate. You're going to see one group come together and say, for this base price of $85, you get Netflix, you get Hulu, you get Disney, you get all these wrapped up into one sweet package. We're probably about a year or two away from that.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that happening. But the only thing that I can say in say Amazon's defense, even though it feels so terrible defending Amazon, is that you do get a lot with Prime, right? Just the basic. You're supposedly I don't even use Apple Music or I don't use Prime Music or whatever they call it, but you get their music service. You do get some Prime Video. You do get obviously the Prime benefits on Amazon. So I mean, with that, it's like it kind of makes sense that they're trying to make up some overhead because I mean they're losing money somewhere in there. But at the same time, I don't think Amazon is tight on their budget per se.
I hate to do this, but Hollywood accounting. There was a joke that Schwarzenegger gave right after I think it was Titanic. He was at the Academy Awards. Titanic was just getting all the awards left and right. It was awesome. But Schwarzenegger said, "Leave it to James Cameron to make so much money that even the accountants can't hide the profits." You can shift the numbers in just certain ways so that you didn't make money, or you spread it over time so you lose money over 5 years, but even though you made $500 million, you ended up actually losing 200 million.
Right. Well, they have tax breaks built into that.
Mhm.
Then you count as a company loss, and then I've even seen or heard rumors of what do you call them, studios that will create a film and then not release it and count it as a loss, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, they're
And
called Warner
so
Brothers. I'm not even joking there
Oh
because, you
my.
know, Batwoman was a movie that was supposed to come out completely finished, and they decided to write it off as a loss. And there are people trying to make that type of write-off go away. Like if they release
yeah.
it and it's a flop, then they can use it as a write-off. But if they don't release it, it's like you put all this research and development into something, and then you don't release it, but you still want to reap benefits from all the money you spent on it. That's not something that you can find in almost any other business.
Have you
So
seen have you seen The Producers?
I have.
So that would have been the best method for them to use to do the swindle move. Don't produce the play. Then it's guaranteed to be a flop.
Well, the producers
Oh,
is kind
and
of
speaking
based
of,
on that
Yeah.
thinking, because you have to release something in order for it to fail. And if you don't release it, it doesn't have a chance to fail, and you shouldn't be able to write that off.
I got a chance to see the original Gene Wilder version of that.
It's great.
It's slow compared to today's media. It takes time to get there, but it's hysterical. Absolutely hysterical.
have you the whole shifting the numbers around, that reminds me of The Accountant. Have you guys seen that
No.
with Ben Affleck?
No.
Okay, that's a very good film. That's actually one of my favorites. Um, yeah, that's a good one. You get to see Ben Affleck play this nerdy accountant turned uh total assassin, and it's awesome.
Could be
He
fun.
kills you with the numbers.
Oh yeah. No, you mess up the numbers, then he kills you.
You forgot to file your form number.
Well, I'm
Uh,
sorry. This is your 1040. We needed a 1040D. Um, to the guillotine. Yeah.
What
What
else
were we
was on our
talking
hit
about?
list? Yeah. Oh yeah. Tech support.
So I'm gonna steer us in a different technological direction. Came
Really?
across something regarding space exploration, and it's so we've been exploring space for, you know, most of mankind's history, because we stared up at the stars. It was like the first night lights that we had. Um, but they have made a discovery on Ceres, and they seem fairly certain that this little dwarf planet that is in the asteroid belt uh, has organic material that originated on Ceres. It didn't come
Hmm.
from like a passing asteroid or anything like that. So really cool stuff. We may have just found, you know, another source of life in the, and like scientific evidence that life has existed on other planets in our solar system.
how are we observing series?
There was a spacecraft sent to Ceres in 2017. Well, it sent data back in 2017. It was called Dawn, and I think they are still doing a lot of examinations of the planet using the spacecrafts that are out there. Because, you know, just because we mostly know of like Curiosity, and it doesn't mean that there aren't other missions that are going on elsewhere that we don't hear about, because, you know, who wants to hear about Ceres? We want to hear about Mars. We want to hear about the moon. because those things we can actually see. Those things we know about. Most people, if you ask them what Ceres was, they'd say like a TV series. I'm sure.
I would love to see us put another Voyager series together. We got Voyager 1, Voyager 2. Let's get 3 and 4 going. With the technology we've got, we could easily get further out than those things have got so far, which they're almost an entire light day away.
I think the biggest problem, and I'm sure there's maybe an okay solution to this, is there's just no return on that investment other than for the people that love the science, right? We love space exploration, but there's no money in it really. But I think they could find it. I think you could make all sorts of documentaries about it. I think you can do all sorts of things to kind of make some money around it and still do the exploration and science, especially since what we've seen SpaceX do in it as far as reducing the cost it takes to actually get things into space and to do all of that. I hope that in the future we do have some funding go towards space exploration.
Well, I mean, that's why we've got governments in the first place, is to do those projects that are so big no one corporation could take it on.
Right.
Or
But when
no
was the
one
last
corporation should
thing
take
we've
it on.
seen the government do?
Yeah. But yeah, I would love to see more space exploration, more understanding of, how the universe works, and hey, what can we do to make the world better here?
Yeah. So one of the big scientific important, or I can't think of the word right now, but one of the reasons that this information is important is Ceres is, after the Earth, the most hydrological based uh,
Mhm.
entity in the solar system. It's got more water on it than even Titan. So it's also
You don't want to live on Titan.
no, you don't. Uh, but it could also be like a staging point. It's about 1/6 the size of our moon, but it would still be, a place
Hmm.
that we could land and then refuel, do what we need to do there, especially if it's got a lot of water, if it's got the capabilities of maintaining um, carbon-based life forms. It would be a wonderful, I mean, it would probably be easier to use that as a place to test a lot of the technology that we would want to move to Mars, because there's already water, there's already organic life there. Maybe not alive, but the potential for life there. Um, so, yeah, it would just be a staging point or a research spot for us to play around and do so in an actual zero oxygen environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure it would be a lot easier to terraform something that small than something the size of Mars.
But can you get Starlink there?
Um, Possibly. I would honestly guess that if we were going to extend out a network like that, we would put relays on the small asteroids that are in the belt.
You know how much mineral there is in those asteroids? Like there's entire like miles long chunks of iron floating around in that asteroid belt.
Wow.
Yeah, it would be really nice if we could, find a way to utilize it in some way.
There are
We don't need to
companies
bring it
right
back
now
to.
they're trying to figure out how to actually mine those asteroids. Actually, I had a keynote speaker at one of my previous companies' teacher get-togethers. Um, it was really cool to hear the way they're trying to get up there and harvest some of those minerals and bring them back to Earth.
If we were able
That'd be
to
really interesting
harvest
to see.
them. Sorry, Jackson, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that'd be really interesting to see what that process would look like.
So because a lot of space, it's the gravitational fields are different around the smaller bodies. There's a possibility that you could have like a factory on the moon or a factory on Ceres, or even just like built on the asteroid itself to process the contents of the asteroid, and it would just be an interesting way of getting more resources. Because you know we like to say that we've got limited resources on Earth, and that's true. We do have limited resources on Earth, but Earth is also not the most bountiful when it comes to things like iron, things like gold, things like diamond. Many light years away, there's an entire planet made of diamond, which is just really condensed carbon.
Mhm.
Anyways, I'm done.
Yeah, we had a couple things on our agenda. I think we've gone into space exploration. That's one of the cool things I like about what we do. We talk about the most interesting and crazy cool stuff. But yeah, we've got just about 7 minutes left in our podcast today. What do we got left? What else on our agenda?
Well, I actually had a little question related to seeing as how it's Christmas time. I wanted to know what everyone's little favorite gadget is. Maybe that you've received um, as a gift, or something that you just use on the daily. That's like your go to like tool for things. It could be software too. If you have like a little program that you love. I was curious what everyone's little favorite thing is.
Hmm.
When you ask that, there are two things that come to mind for favorite gadget. The first one, Inspector Gadget.
So are you thinking more of like a hobby or utility or what?
Anything tech related that you like find to be super useful.
So I think the
Like
toilet's
for
super
example,
useful. I
Are you
mean,
getting
I'm
a
not
toilet for Christmas?
not this year, but in previous years, yes, a new bathroom was a Christmas thing. So just saying,
do you ever use the smart toilets like the
where they sing to you
what do they
and
call it?
wash your unmentionables?
Yes.
Not yet.
When we take the trip to Japan.
Although there was a game changer. We got one of those tankless water heaters with a recirculator. So the hot line in our house is always warm water. You ever wash your hands and you have to wait just a minute for the warm water to get there? Yeah, it's that was a game changer. I love that thing. But it's one of those things you take for granted when you got it. And once you don't have it, then it's like really annoying because now I got to wait for hot water to get to the faucet.
hmm one of my
I
favorite,
don't
I
think
guess,
that fits your
little
criteria though.
things. Not quite, but that's cool. What like one of the things I was thinking of, I have two things. This is more of a piece of software, but Ventoy is a little
Hmm.
um it's basically just like a little Linux distro that you can put on a USB that will make it bootable, and you can put in, several uh smaller operating systems on that, or even you can put in, um images on there for whatever. I mean, I find that to be incredibly useful. It's like my one all be all. Or I have like I wish I had my keys down here with me. I found this this was several years ago. Actually, this was gifted to me. Was this little flashlight, rechargeable, tiny, fits on your keychain. That thing is so bright. Like, I mean, it could blind you. I don't know the lumen count on it. But it's like it's great. But I got it. I was like, "Oh, that's great, but like it'll probably last me like, I don't know, a week, and then, I'll have to change the batteries in it, but it's rechargeable, which was so nice." That thing is like I use that thing on the daily, especially when I'm like looking in a computer. You can never get quite the right amount of light in there. Just the thing's perfect.
Yeah, I think for daily driving, not your standard accepted things like, glasses. I use glasses because I need them. They're technology, but we don't think about technology in that way. Now, if we're talking like Ventoy or tech tools like that, cell phone has become ubiquitous, so can't really say that.
I've got one.
I would s- I would say my favorite gadget is these headphones. They're the bone conducting kind.
Those are cool.
So I can be on a call, I can be on my phone watching videos, I can be on this podcast listening to you guys, but I still have open ear access to the entire room. It's a game changer. How about you, Artie?
Now I've tried. Go ahead,
So
Artie.
the one thing that I got as a Christmas present that I think is one of my favorite gadgets is the Sega Dreamcast.
Ooh.
Now, most people say, "Oh, it's just a video game system." This system, when it came out, was you could boot up almost any program you wanted to as long as you knew how to get it in there. You put a disk in there with a Windows XP uh, like base system, and it will load it up into the RAM. You could run almost anything you could think of on there as long as it was within the device's memory capacity. It was also used for, or it was discovered to have, I don't know if it was actually used by many, but you connect it to a network, plug it in, turn it on with a certain program running on the disk, let that boot up, take the disk out so you don't leave it, and go to your home computer, and you can now backdoor into that network through the Dreamcast because you have now created a hole in their physical network, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dreamcast was extremely powerful when it came out, and not many people realized the capabilities of it outside of gaming, that is.
That's cool.
How about you, Jackson? Is it Ventoy's your cool toy?
I do like Ventoy. I like playing around with some emulators. I'm not huge into games, but I grew up with a PlayStation 2, and I was like, oh man, I don't have my PlayStation 2 anymore, but I have all the old discs. And so, playing with emulators, I think those are fun little pieces of software that kind of bring back some good memories. But Ventoy, as far as like utility, I like using that. It's makes dragging files or anything around a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a fantastic subject to wrap this up on. So we are at the bottom of the hour. Is it an hour? We started at a half hour mark, then we go for another half hour past the hour. So we're at the bottom of our hour. So anyway, I think we should invite our viewers to send comments, in chat below or whatever method you want. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to be online next week, right after Christmas. I actually want to hear what everybody got for Christmas on that one. It's going to be fun. But until then, I've been John.
I'm Jackson.
Merry Christmas, people. I'm Artie.
Merry Christmas. We'll see you
Merry
next week.
Christmas.